Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Noisy Neighbours podcast. Tuesday evening still. Christian, how are we doing, mate? Are we looking forward to getting into a bit of Phil Foden?
Yeah, man, he's one of my favourite players, so it'll be it's a good little topic, innit? Let's roll.
Okay, yeah, definitely, yeah. Let's get into it, Phil Foden. Obviously, the reigning PFA Player of the Year, had an amazing season last year, led City to a title, as obviously your best player, the best player in the league, and pretty much since that last game, I think he scored in the last league game, didn't he? Against West Ham, I think it was, yeah. I fortunately had my partner's full City family round for that game, and I had to listen to you all cheering. I know you weren't there, Christian, but the rest of them were, which is great. No, so yeah, Phil Foden, reigning PFA Player of the Season, has had a real stinker of a time now since he really left the pitch on the FA Cup final, really. And there's been a Daily Mail article by somebody called Jack Gohan, and he has... I'm paraphrasing here a little bit. Phil Foden is understood to have had a physical problem this season, having already revealed he has suffered from mental fatigue and that his brain had become foggy in training sessions. Both Man City and Foden's representatives declined to confirm the nature of either, resulting social media criticism, which Foden reads, as a result of underperformances, is beginning to spiral out of control. Man City players are known to have privately worried about Foden. Okay, quite a lot to unpack there, Christian.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the mental fatigue and the physical side of Foden and what your sort of reaction is to those reports. One, do you think it makes sense? And two, what are you seeing with your own eyes when it comes to Phil Foden?
Yeah, I don't think it came as a big shock. It's really unfortunate. I think it's been noticeable. He has been struggling for a long time. I do think the international, the tournament with England, I think has a lot to play with it. And I think, that he got a lot of criticism from the media and from a lot of England fans. And yeah, I think I just think we didn't handle it the greatest as well. Like, we've just got this news now. I'm guessing City knew about this a long time ago, if not at the time. So it shocks me the way we have dealt with it or not dealt with it, more to the point. I understand trying to play someone back into form, but there's levels. If he was admitting to having these problems at the time, I mean, brain fog in training sessions, we're talking, the guy was in a bad way. I think he should have been granted some sort of leave. I mean, we saw it with Sancho quite a long time ago, and I think he really warranted it. What would you say on that?
Yeah, I mean, I felt something has been off with Foden. I think we've spoke about it in our watch-alongs, and sort of the body language and mental fatigue, and his brain has become foggy in training sessions. This is a player who was seeing the game so sharp and clearly last season that he was receiving it on the half turn at the Bernabeu, and after one touch was slapping in the top corner past Courtois. So this is very, 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 very difficult to understand, and also, we don't know how City are dealing with this, and you like to think there's been some protection. However, you did just touch on it perfectly then. At the beginning of this season, Foden was struggling he wasn't really playing much, and we didn't really know he was injured. And then he's back in, and now he's been playing consistently, and it's a bit uncomfortable to read that maybe he's suffering a bit mentally, and it's one of those where we are, from the outside looking in, sometimes it's difficult. We just watch players and we think, why are you not performing? It is a good reminder that they are humans, and Foden had a really tough time at the Euros. I think it was a little bit over the top to a degree, although it speaks to his ability, why the criticism was so severe, and also obviously the season he had. I have seen it with Wayne Rooney, though. I've seen Wayne Rooney be unplayable in the Prem, and then, to be honest, a few of Rooney's were injury related, admittedly. However, you still go there, and he wasn't injured at every major tournament. He went there and was disappointing, and it's difficult to understand sometimes. And I do wonder what happened at the Euros and going into those group games. Is there something we missed as fans? And yeah, it's quite strange looking back. Really, it's not even a year ago. And do you remember the first game? And we were excited. We couldn't wait to see folk.
Yeah,
This was it. This was his Rooney 2004, and he just didn't. He just didn't start well, and he just didn't really consistently get going. And then he's not recovered, and it's worrying. I've got to admit, it's worrying.
I think, Alex, it's a reminder of, listen, when we saw Phil Foden come into the team, he was really bedded in, and Pep mastered it. He didn't send him out on loan. He said he was a special player.
Yeah.
He wanted him to learn off the players we had, and he would be a guy for the future. He stood by his word, and here we saw it. PFA Player of the Year. He went into that tournament, like you said, we were all expecting big things, but maybe Pep, maybe we should look at it from a different angle. Maybe Pep saw the vulnerabilities in this lad when he was coming through as a young player. Maybe he thought, it's the best place for him, but he does needed to be slowly brought in, and we can't be throwing him in at the deep end. Ultimately, because of the season he had, it was almost his own. It was almost a bad thing on him as well, because then the expectation grew that much. And it's through no fault of his own. He had a great season, but we are fans, and we ultimately saw him have that season. We expected it for England. It didn't happen, and I think I am seriously worried about some quotes I've seen from himself recently. You won't even know this, but he came out, I think it was last week or the week before, and he said, if I am lucky enough to win something again in the future, I will make sure I enjoy it a lot more than I previously have, basically. Words to the effect of, right? Now, I just feel like, for me, this guy is absolutely... He's just so devoid of any confidence right now. I mean, even to say, the way he says it, like, if I ever do get back to that level, that's how it kind of sounds, or it would read to some people. I just think it's seriously worrying. I think City need to manage this. Our season is done. Yes, okay, we had the FA Cup to play for. But look, playing Phil Foden into the ground when we're saying he's got mental issues, I really think he's stupid. Let the lad go away. Give him a fucking break. He's played a lot of football. He's had a lot of expectations on his shoulders, and he's been in this team since he's been a young lad, and he's done insane. He's done incredibly well. I mean, to hold your own when you come into a team and you see the likes of Sergio Aguero, David Silva, Kevin De Bruyne, the mental weight of that alone must be unbelievable.
Do you think that the feeling now that the team is you're in a little bit of a transition, a mini transition? Do you think that coming off of the back of the Euros and a little bit more pressure is on his shoulders just because of the nature of the squad and the age of your best players? Certainly De Bruyne, Bernardo Silva, and Gundogan, who came back but was past it. Do you think that he is struggling with the aspect of that as well as the back of the Euros as well coming into this season, and just looking ahead to the future? Obviously, you want to protect him. He's an amazing player and by all accounts a really good person. I know he looks a bit of a chav, but he's a good family guy. Just because he shaves slits into his eyebrows doesn't make him a bad bloke. He's not out partying from what I see. He's always in good shape. Got really good fitness levels, doesn't get many injuries. Just do you think that now that coming into the season, it was a lot for him to shoulder after tough Euros? The thought of I've gone from having a bit of a band behind me to now I'm the solo act nearly. And do you think that's contributed?
I think so, mate. I think that would be a fair assumption. I also think there's a few other things that could come into it. Look, I have complimented Pep on the way he has brought him in and bedded him in. But I think, there is some things we've got to discuss as well, and I don't know what. I'd be interested to get your opinion on this, actually. I have mine as a City fan, and I feel like Phil Foden has been moved around an awful lot and way too much for my liking. To the point, Foden's coming out himself and he's saying publicly, I want to play in this position. But Pep has played him absolutely everywhere. We've had him as a false nine, we've had him as a left winger, we've had him as a right winger, we've had him as a 10. I don't think that has helped him in the long run, because Foden is not a Jude Bellingham type player. he's not a player where he's not that versatile in terms of he will give you an 8 out of 10 in all them positions. I don't think it does his confidence any good, because I think if Foden starts dropping stinkers as a left winger and then you put him back in as a number 10, I think that could result in a few bad games in the number 10 position because he's lost his confidence being out on the wing. Whereas Jude Bellingham, you could put him out there, you'll get an 8 out of 10 in a position that isn't necessarily his favoured one.
Yeah, he's a
but
maverick,
then you can go back
yeah.
into his and you'll get a fucking 9 out of 10. Now, you've got to play the guy's character here and understand him, and I don't feel like we've done a great job of that. And I'd say City are majorly at fault for that. It's easy to come at Southgate and say he was playing him out of position. At the end of the day, he's going into a tournament and he has these guys for a very limited amount of time. And also he had Jude Bellingham, who plays a very similar position, and he come up with some clutch moments. So I do feel like we have sort of let Foden down.
Yeah, and also I think just you touched on Southgate there as well, and don't forget Southgate was in very close contact with Pep on Kyle Walker a number of years ago about playing in a back three, and Pep Guardiola actually gave Southgate some really strong advice on how he thinks Kyle Walker could play that position. So don't think just because it's not been reported, it's not impossible to think that Southgate spoke to Pep on Foden, and Foden has played on the left for City as well. We spoke about it. Just unfortunate that off the back of an amazing season, he had to potentially do that, and then it just went to complete shit. I don't think he was actually that bad. I just think that when you don't win the tournament, you people are going to get the finger pointed at them. So yeah, I think like with City and Pep, I do think that it's difficult because sort of accepting his position and letting him grow into a position now it might result in having a bit more patience than Pep's ever had to have in this scenario, because it looks like you might have to try and let Foden grow back into a role in this team, because okay, he's been here since he was however young age. He's been at City all his life. When you've got De Bruyne there, Bernardo Silva there, I'll go on the right for a bit. It's fine. Now he's got to grow into the role of a leader, and he's got to grow into that role of
he's that new De Bruyne for us.
Exactly, and that's the thing that maybe he's struggling with. And look, there's physical stuff as well. He's played way too much football, like so many young players have played, and Pep's done a good job of protecting him. But it's difficult now because you're one of the top players. Now you are the guy. And is he going to be? How is Pep going to play this? Because I don't think Foden's the guy you can drop around in positions. I think you've got to let him grow into a role. And if you want him to become a leader, I think you've got to give him time, because like you said, you touched on something before. The first thing you said was that did have City known, well, City will know exactly what he's made of, and his emotional side that we don't see. And now you're looking at him a little bit differently. You're looking at his facial expressions, and you're like, oh man, he looks beaten up. He looks beat up, the guy. And you're looking at him, and what you've gone from tearing the league up to now looking at him and actually having sympathy. And you're like, this guy's going through it. I do think there's got to be something done with City. I think there should be some protection, and he's so talented. I don't think there's anything major to worry about. I think there's got to be some management here.
I think it's worth looking into a lot of the other things that have come out as well.
The England stuff's come at a bad time, and it this week's been an awful one for him, because again he's got blasted for his performance. And again, was it even that bad? It's just against a low block of an Albania team, and he couldn't do anything. But
yeah, I mean, it's like, well, the whole England team looked bad. I mean, we've not really done a deep dive into that, but it looks very flat, a bit worryingly flat, to be honest. But we can get into that another time. Yeah, get him back. But look, with Foden, there was other things as well. He's apparently had these stomach issues, and he lost a stone in weight. And to be honest, I've thought this for a while. I thought the guy looks like he's lost some muscle mass. He doesn't look as strong. And I think that led to a confidence issue as well, in terms of, just a little stat for you, Alex. So last season, per 90 minutes, so he was averaging carries into the box. He was getting 1.62 in every 90 minutes. And this year, he's been getting 0.89. so that's less than one a game. Now,
Yeah.
you think of Foden's best position and where he looks the most dangerous. That ball on the half turn, zipping into the box, and he's close control. I'd say he's the best in the world football at doing it. We've not really seen anyone as good at it for a long, long time. Maybe
Yeah.
David Silva you could possibly link it to.
Yeah.
And I just think to have lost the best part of his game is a serious, serious concern. Of all the other stats that have dropped off, his goals, whatever, assists, that's the one that bothers me the most, because that's the one that screams to me, I'm not confident enough to play the way that I actually love to play my best football.
Yeah. I think that, I mean, it's obviously difficult reading those stats, but it's not. It sort of meets the eye test. Really, I would have said it was about 50% of the rate compared to last season. What I think, from my opinion, I've not played football at a high enough level myself to say this with any sort of real experience. I'm just going off of like playing football, sort of. Even at the levels I have, either side of knee surgery that I had, and feeling that sort of didn't have the push off, and I didn't have the stability or the strength that I had previously. And at that level, okay, he's not had any surgery, but it's that you said he's lost the stone. He's feeling he's not got that protection. He's not got that. He's not got the body control that he had, or the strength. And it's a mental thing as much as anything else, where it's like he might have just got shrugged off it in one of the first 4 games. As a fan, it's innocuous. To him, that can root in their head, and it could be something where he's like, I can't get on the half turn the way I'm feeling. I'm feeling shit. I'm a stone underweight. Mate, that's insane at this level.
Yeah.
You know, unless you are godlike, which we've only seen one in our lifetime who could lose a stone and still be as effective, which is Messi. Your game is going to suffer because you haven't got the strength. You've not got the ball retention of a god. You know, as technically gifted as Foden is, things like this play on your mind, and
of course.
You see,
Alex, these guys as well, they're tracked to within a £1, £2 of their body fat limits. So why on earth he's dropping a stone? Yeah. That's dramatic. That's a big decrease. Even if you're trying to lose weight and you drop a stone, you're fucking proud. So I don't understand how City have let this get to a point where it would lead to that he's having more serious health issues, which is very concerning. I don't want to speculate, but he was at the start of the season. Apparently he had these stomach issues or whatever. Look, I don't know.
He needs to get the summer off, Christian. He needs to get the summer off.
Mate, he does. He needs to. And this is where I come to that City, yes, we've got the FA Cup to play for.
Yeah.
But I would also lean to, I'm not being arrogant here, so I hope no one takes this, but we have won a lot of trophies in recent years. If this means getting our most important player, our best player, back to the level where he can compete again and a healthy mindset, let the guy go away for a bit now, get himself back ready, let him have some time with his family. Yeah. And he will come back stronger. I think it only benefits us and benefits him. Yeah. So we need him back.
Yeah, fuck the FIFA cash cow off in the summer, whatever that is. I mean, we'll get
again, mate. That's just going to fuck our. That's just going to fuck our players. What are we doing?
But this is the thing, when you see it when players get older, and it's that first sort of sprint when they sort of get into 31, 32, and they're like, they can't. They've not got it. They've not got the burst anymore, and mentally that does more to you than physically. And I think there's probably some stuff going on in Foden's head that he talks about fogginess and stuff like that. And it's not overly clear what that means. There's the final paragraph of that tweet or the article. Man City's players are known to have privately worried about Foden. It's very difficult to read that, to be honest, because you don't know what he's going through, and I'm surprised he's played as much as he has, to be honest. I think, and that he's been made available for England. I think of the best man manager of all time, in my opinion, is Fergie, and Fergie would have said, you've seen it. You've seen the media come for United players in the past under Fergie. You've seen the way he's fucking dealt with the media. And he sat there in a fucking presser after some bullshit articles were put out. I can't remember who they were about. And Fergie said, you put out any more lies, you ain't getting back in. You're not coming into Carrington.
Yeah, he was
You're not
the best
coming in. And the gig stuff, the protection of gigs, protection of Beckham, albeit he did flog him in the end, the protection of Rooney, the protection of Ronaldo. Fergie was the absolute best at it, and I am a little bit concerned that is Foden getting the protect. Guardiola is an absolute winning machine. Has Guardiola got a grasp on this? That yes, you want to win forever. We all do. However, they are human beings, and an arm round the shoulder or 3 weeks away. I don't think. Let me just I'll explain this to you. Right, this is you obviously don't know the Fergie thing. You're 6 years younger than me. Foden would not have gone to England this week if Fergie was his manager. He would have just fucking said no. And he would have put a stop to it. And what's happened from it? Foden played one game against a low block against Albania, who are quite well organised. Didn't do anything wrong, didn't do anything good. Neither did Rashford on the other side, by the way. And he's got Roy Keane sitting in the studio going, he won't have to worry about what position he's in because he won't make the squad. It's doing no one any good. And I think he should have been protected this week. And I think, like I said, I think Fergie would have said, "You're not fucking going there. You're injured. Yeah. He's got a knock. He needs 2 weeks. He needs 2 weeks with me." And you just want to think that our City, we don't know. Look, you don't want to point fingers, but our City doing enough behind the scenes to protect this lad. He's done a lot for your club, and look, you got to look after him. You got to protect your own, mate.
You have, I think, a lot of these media guys as well. I actually saw that, and I think they point score on just stupid comments. Because if you were to actually deep delve into that, and you go to him, oh, go on, then you don't want to actually take him to the tournament. Who would you want to take? He would have no fucking answer, would he? He just point scores with stupid shit at him. He's like he said that Haaland stuff, and then it's like embarrassing. Haaland a bit after it was just like wouldn't comment on it, and then he went and said something again, and it's like a fucking jealous ex trying to get your attention.
Yeah.
But anyway, I digress. Going back to Foden, I think City have managed it poorly, and I think this coming out is evidence that it has been. I think maybe Pep was thinking, I'll play him back into some sort of form and get him over this. And I think Foden is the type of guy, he just lives to play football.
Yeah.
So he will not, I know all these guys do, but I think he would have never ever come to Pep and said, I don't want to play minutes. But you've got to take it away from them sometimes. And I think that's where Fergie was amazing. That he would take it out of their hands. It wouldn't have been a decision. You wouldn't have been going to England. There'd have been some sort of fucking injury invented, whether you had it or not. Or he'd have just told them to fuck off. He'd have just rang him and said, no, he's not going.
Yeah.
And also, he would have took him out the firing line at United, and I think that is exactly what he needs. I really want to see my favourite player that has ever come through a City academy get back to where he can be. And to do that, I think he needs a summer off.
Yeah.
Get the lad back straight, because when he is on form, he's one of my... I know he plays for my club, and he's come through the academy, so I do have a soft spot, but he is genuinely one of my favourite players in world football, regardless. Even if he was playing for Villa, Newcastle, I'd say the same. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, he's a class player. I mean, there's no doubt in his technical ability, and he's not a player that we typically create.
No.
We both like Bellingham, and we both rate Bellingham very highly. However, Bellingham is what we usually do create. A powerful player. Maybe he's got a little bit more to his game than just power, but he's in that ilk of, you can tell he's English. Foden, he looks like a Spanish player, and that's what's really nice to see. And yeah, obviously we did a bit of the Bellingham Foden stuff on the last week's England pod, and obviously we'll certainly, as we progress certainly towards the World Cup, God, we will be getting into that in a lot more detail. But like Neville did touch on it, and it's one of the better things Neville said, where he did say, if Phil Foden doesn't work out for England in some capacity, it's a failure from everyone. And I agree with that. And I do think that whatever, you can't account for what Foden is mentally. Like every player is wired up differently. In my opinion, Foden is technically better than Bellingham, but Bellingham's head, we did it. Bellingham does not give a fucking shit at all. Foden looks quite emotional. Looks like an emotional guy. Looks more like a Beckham. And they mention here resulting social media criticism. I don't think Bellingham cares.
Apparently he's like reading private messages and stuff. Like, dude, he needs to take himself away from that. I think this is where City need to manage this. How are we a team that's this well run and we're not getting a handle on this? If this news is true, City needs to take this out of his hands. They need to say, look, you need to come away, turn your comments off on your social media. You're not looking at it anymore. We're taking that away from you. You know, you can't be letting him put himself in this environment anymore.
But this is the thing: you can't account for what people are made of, what minerals they've got upstairs. It's
Yeah,
everybody's different. I've seen, and sometimes just look at Bellingham's career. He went to Dortmund at fucking 18 from Birmingham.
yeah,
Why did he do that? He doesn't care. He does not care. And then he went to fucking Madrid, and he's still there now. Like, these things, like, you can't account for what they're like mentally. And I think that we are seeing a little bit of what Foden is made of. But it doesn't mean he can't be amazing for club and country. I just think it's got to be managed a little bit better. I do think that Southgate tried his best with Foden, and I know he rated him very highly. And he started him every game of the tournament. He didn't completely, drop Foden.
yeah.
And I
One
do
thing I
think,
would, one thing I would admire about it though, Alex, is that I completely get your point. But I think it's brave of him to come out. This must have come out from Foden himself. I mean, he's obviously told someone, whether he's gone and he won't have told that journo himself. But he's told someone at the club, and somehow it's got to him. And I think at least he has done the right thing. He has addressed it. And if we can get a handle on it, it's up to us to manage this. Like you just quoted Neville in the England setup. It's up to City to manage this now. At the end of the day, we live normal lives. We go and do our 9 to 5. We come home and do what we want. These guys, they are thrust into a world where anyone can message them and just call them a shit cunt for no reason. You know what I mean? Mate, we're guilty of it. We're doing a pod and we get on players' backs. But look, you are allowed your opinion, but you are going to get them idiots who go one step too far, start messaging. You know, when we saw that Havertz shit, messaging about his missus who's pregnant. It's just some guys are tapped. But the problem is, there's a lot of them that are doing this. It's not one or two. It's 1 or 2 fucking thousand in the DMs. So if you've got an affiliation of reading that and going into that and punishing yourself, that's not a good sign. And that needs to be handled. Do you know what I mean?
The social media side of it. I mean, if I was sort of had any input in any sort of club at this level, I would be like, just come off social media completely, or let your team run it. You do not manage your comments. Do not be searching Phil Foden on Twitter and seeing what comes up. It ain't going to be good, because people love to. If you get to a certain level, people love to bring you down. I also just want to touch on that Foden's struggles are not all down to him, by the way. There's other aspects, and there's other players in that City team that have not stepped up in his absence, or in De Bruyne's side of things. And there's a certain £100 million English player, Jack Grealish, who has been absolute fucking joke for probably 18 months now. And for Foden to face the music, he is still out there. He has still tried all season. He's still got 7 league goals, by the way. He's probably going to get double figures. He's not that bad. Jack Grealish has got 1 more goal than Casemiro in their careers at City and United. And he's played 30 more games than Casemiro. So it
doesn't seem fair at all.
So Grealish is out on the piss and he's on the bench every week. So he's not getting as much flack as Foden, who's trying his best, maybe dealing with a bit of mental health stuff. And by the way, he's not been that bad. Like, if we're just being honest, he's not been that bad.
I'm glad you brought this up, Alex. I'm really glad you've touched on it. Look, me and you are coming on here, and yes, of course there has been a massive drop off. For fuck's sake, he was one of the best players in the world. We're talking he would have been in the shout for like a Ballon d'Or list. He was that good last year. But of course, then we're going to have to come and talk about a drop off that he's had. But if you're going to compare him to other guys in that position, well, the numbers are better, or if not very similar to the other best players in that position in the league, and we are talking about his drop-off. So what does that say about them then? If their best seasons are his worst. So if he's not going to the England squad, I'd be very concerned, Keane. Fucking muppet.
Yeah. No, look, there's some people don't... Look, I've got to be consistent here, but there's a difference between going out partying and phoning in sick, turning up not arsed, fucking playing absolute dog shit fucking Europa League games, going to Belfast before turning into training in the morning. I don't even need to mention any names. You know what I'm on about. Compared to what looks like quite a nice family guy. He's got 2 or 3 kids. Conducts himself really well in the off season. Like I said, always in great shape. And he's a Manchester lad. Like, I support United, but I've still got major respect for him, and I can relate to him as a person because we're from Manchester. Me and you grew up in Salford. That's Okay, Stockport, which is ironically where I live now. But yeah, I just think that it's unfortunate that you're looking at this and like thinking, well, yes, he's out of form, right? Okay, but also he's not getting pissed in Newcastle on a fucking
Yeah.
Monday night. You know what I mean? He's not
He's turning
disrespecting
up
his
every
club.
week. It's never been a problem with discipline or
No,
anything like that. He's trying
as
his
far as we
hardest to get
know.
it back.
Yeah,
And he will. Listen, mate,
yeah,
I've got no doubt that guy will come back and we will
yeah,
see the best of Phil Foden again. He is just ultimately in a bit of a rut. I mean, it's testament to the guy that even in his worst season since his breakthrough, really, he still managed 7 goals.
yeah,
And you
yeah.
know what I mean? He's still had some good performances, and his
Mm.
levels that he can hit, we know. And I
He's a
can
phenomenal
confidently
player,
say he'll get back. It's
mate.
just a matter of managing him back to that level. And I think City have got to take some responsibility. We've
Mm,
got to address the mental side of things. We've got to look at helping him. I'm not
mm,
having a club as well run as City have been in these past few years and the
mm.
trophies we've won. We have people behind the scenes that are capable of sorting this out and helping him. And
Yeah,
they need to be on top of it. And in terms of the more the fatigue, the fitness side of things, I think we need to use a bit of common sense here. Our season has been a fucking disaster from start to finish. It was fucked when Rodri got injured, but no one even foresaw after that it'd get as bad as it did. I
yeah,
don't see the point in us possibly making Foden, putting him in an even bigger hole than he already is, just to try and get an FA Cup over the line. No, let him have some time off. We want to get him back for next year and we want to see the best of him again. That means
yeah.
more than an FA Cup ever will.
No, very well said. And yeah, I echo your thoughts. Obviously, coming from a fan who he scored a hat trick against my club, and he scored other fucking goals as well. So, I'm not losing sleep over it. But I also want good guys in football to succeed. And in
Yeah,
my opinion, unless
definitely.
I've missed something or I don't know, but from the outside looking in, I think he is a good guy. And that's basically it, really. I think we'll just, like you said. Yeah, there is still stuff on the line for City, but I think he can be managed and
Yeah.
see how he's in training. Hopefully, sit down with a psychologist and see how he is,
Mm.
and if he's okay, play him. And sometimes you've got to protect the player from yourself because after I said what I said about Fergie in England, Tuchel's first squad, Foden was probably like, "No, I'm going."
Yeah.
Obviously, we know Fergie would have still said, fucking, damn, no way
Yeah,
you're
yeah,
going.
yeah.
However, I understand from Foden's perspective, sometimes you've got to protect him from himself, really, as
Yeah.
well. And look, 2 weeks off, we spoke about some other players, United players, and it was like, this is like, obviously completely different level of player, but Hoyland, it's hard to watch,
Yeah.
actually. 2 weeks away, get away from the fucking
We said
team.
the same, Alex. Yeah, it's
And
it's
human
human
beings,
nature.
the human beings, mate, that at the end of the day, the human beings, and they've been through their life. Yeah, it is amazing, and we would all swap it, but it doesn't mean
Mm.
that they can't struggle at times, and it looks like he is struggling. So, look, hopefully it's not too bad for him, and look, I want him to lead us to World Cup glory at the end of the day, and I think he's capable of it. I really do think him and Bellingham are capable of leading us to winning that World Cup in 2026.
Yeah,
So,
Alex. I mean, if you look at that, if you touched on how good Bellingham is, and you touched on the Phil Foden and
mm,
the links to Spain, and I think if they, the Spanish team or their kind of officials would watch Foden, they would love to have him. Fuck
yeah,
me, they would watch Foden and be like, Jesus, imagine if we had
he's
someone that could do that sort of
yeah,
role. They
he's,
would mould him into an unbelievable player, like City and
yeah,
Pep have done anyway. I'm not saying we
yeah,
haven't done a great job of it, but we have got to get Foden and Bellingham playing together, and if we can,
yeah.
why can we not win a World Cup? Like at the end of the day,
Mm.
they are two of the fucking best players we have ever
Yeah,
produced.
I mean, look at what where Bellingham plays in big games for Real Madrid. He plays on the left of a 4-4-2 to
Yeah,
stick Vinicius up the way. Like, why don't we just do that? It's about
I
being
think we're
pragmatic.
overcomplicating it, Alex. I think that's what
Um,
it is. I don't think it's the players overcomplicating
no,
because Bellingham, you could say, yeah, he is the big dog, and he has that attitude, but
mm,
I don't think he's got an ego problem. He's got like that perfect balance of, look,
I
if
think
I
so.
can go here for the betterment of the team, I will,
Yeah,
and we'll fucking win, and I'll carry us anyway. I
he
think he's
was.
got that big dog attitude, and
Yeah,
it's not an ego problem at all.
no, I agree. Yeah, no, um, look from your perspective. Let's see how it pans out. I think he will still play, so we're going to get more
Yeah.
looks at Foden between now and the end of the season. Let's keep a close eye on him. Let's see if there's that burst can come back. obviously for you've got top 5 race and FA Cup on the line. So yeah, man. Look, hope he's all right. I doubt he watches this, but from a United fan's perspective, hope you can get through this period, mate. But it's it's been a tough season. For not just him, it has been a tough season for City general. I don't think anybody thought it would get to this stoop to this level, but it has. So let's see how it progresses, mate. Eh?
That's it, bro. Exactly. Let's come back stronger. Go back, have a good break, lad. And yeah, we come back. Just don't go anywhere near Grealish on any holidays. Fuck me. Yeah. Last thing you need.
And don't go to that fucking World Cup bullshit that they've invented.
Yeah, facts, man.
Stay away from that. Okay. Thanks a lot, Christian. Catch you on the next.
Cheers, mate.
Later.